Hello everyone, today I'm bringing another controller review to the channel. This here is the Firefly Controller from Funlab. It is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, Windows, iOS, Steam, and Android devices. This controller has turbo, macro, back buttons, and an interchangeable Dpad. Also on their website, there are other models, including this one from Tears of the Kingdom. There is also this one, which is pretty sus if you ask me. Let's check out what's in the box. Here we have the controller, the cables, and the interchangeable D-pad. Let's take a look at the manual. At first glance, you will see that the controller tries to mimic a leather-like texture in the painting. It's quite different from anything I've seen before. Checking the face buttons, they have rubber membranes. And the travel distance is pretty good. They feel a lot like the original Pro Controller buttons. Also, the buttons don't sit too flush with the shell. The D-pad is clicky, and it's pretty easy to roll around your thumb when you need it. The four other front buttons have clicky mechanical switches too. The triggers and the shoulder buttons are quite easy to press, and they have rubber membranes for contacts. What I really like about the triggers in this controller is that the travel distance is pretty short. On the back, all of these buttons have mechanical switches. And the back buttons are pretty good, and they're easy to press at any point. But I found this problem with the left back button, where it would get stuck if you press in one corner. It's just this specific corner though. In my tests, it wouldn't get stuck during gameplay. But if you pressed at that specific point, the button would indeed get stuck. We'll check that out in the teardown later. The right back button didn't get stuck. Another thing I noticed is that these two buttons here can get in the way during gameplay. When you turn this controller on, it will light up like a Sheikah slate. With this button here, you can control the lights. Just pick your favorite color. There's other lighting modes too. If you hold the light button and press plus, you can cycle between them. This mode will keep flashing. And this other one will activate the lights when the controller rumbles. This other button is used to control the vibration intensity. The D-pad can be easily removed. And you can install a cross-shaped D-pad if you don't like the disc one. The D-pad in this controller is very responsive, and they're even better than the D-pad in some premium controllers I reviewed earlier. There is just one problem with the cross D-pad. After you install it, it will be pretty hard to remove. The only way you can remove it is by using the brute force. And by doing this, you will leave some damage in the D-pad. It's not too bad. When you put the D-pad back, it will be pretty hard to notice. You won't feel anything too, as your thumb will not be touching that section. In the end, I recommend picking your favorite D-pad and sticking with it. In my opinion, I like the circle D-pad more. On the Ergonomics, this controller mimics the Pro Controller layout perfectly. There's just one difference in the grips. They are a bit bulkier in the lower section of this one. And to be honest, it is not a bad choice. It feels different, but at the same time, it feels comfortable. To pair with the Nintendo Switch, you must press Y and home. And this controller can wake up the console. The motion controls works very well. You can also use the back buttons. Remapping them is pretty easy. Just hold this button down, then press the button you want, and when you release it, it's done. This is probably the easiest way to program a back button. And to clear the programming, just tap this button again. This button can also be used to record macros. Here's a look at the turbo function. The D-pad is also super responsive, making it perfect for 2D games. And here's why I like the triggers a lot. The short travel distance makes it perfect for FPS games. To use it with Android devices, you must press A and home. It will show up as Gamepad. To use on your computer, you must use B and Home. Here it will show as Xbox wireless controller. If you want, you can use it wired too. And here you have the option to change between X input and D input by holding plus and minus. The analog sticks are pretty good. They don't have any dead zones in the axis. And let's do a circularity test. And it's very impressive too. On the D-pad, all of the diagonals are easy to press. And this is the same for the cross D-pad too. When you press it in the center, it won't trigger all directions. In fact, that center pivot is rock solid. But when I performed the same test with the circle D-pad, I found a problem. After pressing really hard in the center, you can see that the diagonals are failing. But only on the top right and bottom left corners. I removed the D-pad and put it back in place, and the diagonals are working again. But when I press it hard in the center, the problem comes back. The source of the problem is this T-shaped part here. It sinks too deep in the controller when you press it really hard. But it's really simple to fix. Let's use our favorite material for fixing things: cardboard. Just take a tiny piece and stick it in there. When you put the D-pad back, it won't sink all the way in. Moving to the teardown, you have 4 screws on the top and 4 screws on the bottom. When you remove them, carefully remove the back shell. Be sure to disconnect the rumble motors. And what's going on with these motors here? They're really weird. Actually, this is just a weight. The rumble motor is this small part here. But I don't have nothing against these weights. In fact, they even make the rumble feel better. Here we have a 950 mAh battery. And here you can see the rubber membranes for the triggers. The LED shines all the way to the grips with this board here. On the other side of the board, I was kinda surprised to see all of these connections for RGB LEDs. There's even LED connections under the buttons. And they're all around the analog sticks too. This LED PCB here is quite fragile, so be careful if you are tearing down this controller. On the analog sticks, they are potentiometer sticks, but they are not K-Silver or Alps. I don't know what brand are these, but you can see this F-shaped logo here. Here you can see the light diffuser for the analog sticks and the rubber membranes for the buttons. Unfortunately, you cannot change the button layout. Here's a look at the D-pad. It uses these dome switches, similar to the Xbox and Joy-Con buttons. And here we can see this metal spring underneath. This spring is also used on the Xbox controllers. So you have a pretty similar D-pad here. Here's the front board. And here's another look at the triggers. Moving to the back buttons, you can see here that this part is getting stuck when you push it from the other side. And this part should be touching this point on the board. So again, this should be a simple fix. 2 thin slices of tape should be enough to create some pressure and make the button come back to the original position. And it worked. The button won't get stuck anymore. On my final thoughts, the Firefly controller have a few issues with the quality control. You might not have this problem with your unit, but if you do, you already know how to fix it. Other than that, my only complaint is with the positioning of the buttons to program the back buttons. Since you just need to tap them to clear the macros, you can easily tap them accidentally. Everything else about this controller is pretty good. The analog sticks are very precise, the D-pad is very good, the face buttons are good, the triggers are also very easy to press and very responsive. If only this controller had HT rumble, it would be an amazing cost-benefit replacement for the original Pro controller. I'll be leaving the links in the description. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.